On previous days, Sayadaw explained about Metta in order to keep one's mind pure and high. Having Metta among each other, among the human beings, as well as when dealing with animals, it is important to have Metta. Metta is essential for everyone, not only Buddhists, but also for people of other beliefs, as well as people who do not have certain beliefs. As a human being, it is important to have humane mind. One should have virtue, and one's physical behavior, verbal behavior, mental behavior should be of good quality. In order to be virtuous, one should control oneself so that one will not be committing wrongdoings or transgression. Refraining from wrongdoing and transgression, the person will be uplifted, and it is a way of having victory over oneself. Having victory over oneself, one will not be harming others. To look at it from the worldly way, they might think it as being defeated, but actually it is the best way to have victory on oneself. When the person has victory on oneself, there will be patience, forgiveness, and one will be able to forgive, thinking that the other person do such thing because of his or her ignorance. In this way, the person can easily forgive, and the person has right attitude. The person also gives up the person also makes sacrifices, and having Metta, having true Metta, the other good mental states automatically follow. And the person will not have grudge or ill will towards others. In this way, the person removes internal enmity. And also, having Metta, one will not hold grudge. Grudge is removed by having Metta, and there will not be enemy. In this way, there will be smoothness when dealing among each other, and the friendship will become asambada. The friendship will become wide, not narrow. And in the text, there are mentioned 11 benefits of developing Metta, but Sayadaw will not explain now. Later on, when he has the opportunity, Sayadaw will explain. Having Metta, one has victory on oneself. One will not hold grudge or ill will towards others. It is the benefit of having Metta, and it is good enough already. Akodena jine koda, not having anger, aversion, or ill will, one gains victory on others who have aggression and impatience. Having metta, there are lots of benefits. Having metta towards others, others will also be happy. So metta leads to the happiness of others as well. Having metta, there is patience, forgiveness, willing to make sacrifices, and also compassion arises automatically. That's why it is explained that having metta, one also will have compassion. They are metta and compassion are connected. By explaining metta, it will also be necessary to explain Karuna, compassion, and Sayadaw will explain about Karuna, compassion, briefly. True metta, true loving kindness, dispels hatred, kind of dosa. Having metta, one will be able to remove hatred. Having karuna, compassion, one removes cruelty. When the person sees another person or a group of other people suffering, then one feels shaken in the mind with karuna, compassion. Having karuna, compassion, the person wants to remove the suffering of others. In this way, there will be appropriate way of excitement or appropriate way of shaking of the mind, wanting to remove the suffering of others. When the person sees relatives or friends who are pitiful, who are having suffering in any way, then the person has then the person tends to get improper kind of excitement, and there can be soka, sorrow, and such kind of sorrow is called improper way of excitement, as it involves tanha, craving. So there can be improper way of excitement with tanha when the person sees relatives or friends suffer. Karuna is not like that. Karuna, having karuna, the person wants to remove the suffering whenever the person sees other people suffer. It is called anukampa, appropriate way of excitement, appropriate kind of shaking of the mind. In this way, there will be appropriate kind of excitement when the person sees other suffering and the person wants to remove the suffering of others. Having karuna, compassion, the person removes cruelty. In the text, there mentions the characteristic of karuna, and it is very noteworthy. Dukkha panayana bhavati lekhana karuna, meaning karuna has the characteristic of wanting to remove the suffering of others. Having karuna, the person does not want others to suffer. It is the characteristic that the person wants to remove the suffering of others. It is the characteristic of Karuna. When the person sees or hears that others are suffering, there will be shaking in the mind. The person does not bear. The person cannot bear to see or hear others suffer. Not with soka, not with sorrow. There is just mere wish to remove the suffering of others. So the function of Karuna is not being able to bear the suffering of others. And also, Karuna manifests as not having cruelty towards others, not harming, not hurting, not being cruel to others. So the characteristic of Karuna is wanting to remove the suffering of others. The function of Karuna, not able to bear others suffer. And the Karuna has the manifestation of not being cruel, not harming others. Among the causes for Karuna to arise, the proximate cause is dukkha vibhutana anatta bhava dasana padathana, meaning when others are suffering, becoming destitute, having no one to depend on, then the person has Karuna towards that person or being. So seeing the suffering of others, seeing the suffering, the state of being destitute of others is the proximate cause for Karuna to arise. In the world, there are epidemics such as illnesses, plague, and also being tortured, tormented by inhumane person. In the olden days, they are called amanusa, the demon that resemble human but which are not human, the demons. But nowadays, they are inhumane people. So when a person gets tortured by these inhumane people, when there are people who are having famine or who are the victims of natural disaster, when a person sees such people suffering, they have the shaking in the mind, wanting to remove their suffering. So there are groups of people who are giving help to the needy, giving medicine, giving treatment, food, as well as the support. People who have Karuna, compassion, cannot bear the sight of seeing others suffer. So they do physical action in order to remove the suffering of others. It is very good. When the person sees others suffering, being destitute, the person develops true Karuna, true compassion towards others. And also, people from nations which are well-to-do help others in the developing country. And in the Dhamma way, when a person has extreme defilements, lobha, dosa, moha, indulging in these defilements, the person ends up committing wrongdoings. If there are extreme dosa, the person indulges in the extreme dosa and ends up committing wrongdoings. When a person has delusion, ignorance, due to the ignorance, the person commits wrongdoings. Such kind of person indulging in extreme defilements, committing wrongdoings, suffer. When a person sees that kind of ignorant person who commit transgression, will have compassion towards the person, and the person wants to help in order to bring them onto the right path, in order to realize the Dhamma, so that they will gain happiness. In this way, the person with compassion will lead others onto the path of Dhamma according to the teachings of the Buddha. So if there are population of people who straighten the path of others to be on the correct path of others, then the suffering of others will be removed. It is not sufficient to support other beings who are afflicted with disease, who are needy in material things, but it is also important to lead others onto the Dhamma path if others are overwhelmed with adhamma. People who are overwhelmed with adhamma are very pitiful, and when they commit wrongdoings, they will suffer, not only in this life, but also in the life to be followed. So it is important to help them to practice Satipatthana meditation in order that they will be able to remove the defilements, and thus they will be saved from suffering. So when helping others in the Dhamma, the person should not expect personal gain or fame. In this way, the person leads others into the practice of Dhamma with Karuna, compassion, without expecting personal gain or fame. The being or the many beings encounter suffering due to their bad deeds done in the past. Due to their bad deeds done in the past, they get bad resultants and the bad consequences. And when others support them with relief aid, sometimes they are not able to get them equally because of their bad deeds that have been done in the past. They are very pitiful. So the victims of natural disaster, some of them cannot even receive the relief aid, even though others send the relief aid. They are those who do not have the chance to receive them, so they are very pitiful. People who suffer encounter suffering because of the wrongdoings they have done in the past. And because of their bad deeds, the bad results come to them because of the bad deeds they had done before. Karuna, compassion, is opposite of dosa. When there is dissatisfaction, anger, hatred, there can be cruelty. The person who wants to torment others do things cruelly, and there will be vihimsa, tormenting others with cruelty. Having karuna, compassion, one removes cruelty. Soka, sorrow, deceives in the way of karuna. When soka arises, it pretends to be karuna. So in the world there are cases where soka pretends as karuna. When seeing other people suffering, when other people are in critical condition, with no hope to live, then the person might feel soka, sorrow, and the person euthanizes someone who has no hope to live. So this case of euthanizing is the soka, which is pretending to be karuna. And when pets are about to die, when the pets are dying, the owners do mercy killing. So mercy killing is the soka that pretends to be karuna. It is the passive way of dosa. Mercy killing is not true mercy. Mercy is the compassion wanting to remove the suffering of others. But the mercy killing is not true mercy, because one is putting other beings to death. So it is the passive form of dosa, which is pretending as karuna. And one should be careful that there are soka and the passive form of dosa which pretend to be karuna. In the eastern north of India, in the past, when the women see snails, they catch the snail and put them into hot water, because they say that they pity the slow-moving snail, that the women want the snails to escape from this mischievous life, being so slow and pitiful. So they put the snail in the boiling water, thinking that they are saving the snails. But actually, you might call it as mercy killing, but actually it is the passive form of dosa, pretending as compassion. Buddha has the virtue Vichārana Sampanna, being endowed with knowledge and conduct. Vichā is the knowledge, Having knowledge, Buddha could teach what is the wrong path, what is the right path to the beings. Buddha was endowed with knowledge that Buddha could lead the beings what should be refrained from and what should be performed. And Buddha knew completely. Charana are the 15 kinds of conduct, Rupavachara jhana, and the Dhamma vihara. Among the Dhamma vihara there is Karuna. Buddha had great compassion. Buddha had Mahakaruna, great compassion. If a person only knows what is right and wrong without compassion, will not be able to help others. Having compassion alone without knowledge, the person cannot save others. So in this way, the person should be endowed with knowledge, knowing what should be refrained, what should be performed, as well as the person should have Karuna, compassion. Only then the person who is endowed with knowledge and compassion will be able to help others. Buddha had the virtue Vijjhācarana Sampanna. Buddha was endowed with both knowledge and conduct. And one should take Buddha as the example. Buddha led the beings to refrain from the wrong path and to follow the right path. Buddha guided the right path so that beings gain benefit, and Buddha prohibited the wrong path so that beings will not meet harm. So it is important to have Vijja, knowledge, and Charana, conduct, in dealing among people. Buddha was endowed with both knowledge and conduct, Vijjhācarana Sampanna, and Buddha taught beings so that beings could also be endowed with the knowledge and conduct. Attana rakhanto param rakhati. By controlling oneself from wrongdoings, the person also protects others. One should avoid the wrongful path and one should follow the correct path. In this way, one should lead others to avoid wrongful path and one should direct others to follow the correct path. Having knowledge, one will have control of oneself. Having control of oneself with knowledge, one is also protecting others. Having compassion towards others, the person protects others from being hurt. The person protects others from suffering. So if there are people who have compassion, if the population of people who have compassion grow, then there will be peace in the world. Having knowledge that there will be good results from good deeds, bad consequences from bad deeds. Having knowledge, one will have moral shame and moral fear that the person will control oneself with moral shame and moral fear from wrongdoings. Having control of oneself, one also protects others from being hurt. Based on Metta and Karuna, wanting the welfare of others, not wanting others to suffer, the person automatically controls oneself from wrongdoings, so that the person is also controlling oneself. So people have to try hard to have good control of oneself, to refrain from wrongdoings. Having Metta and Karuna, one wishes the welfare of others, not wanting others to suffer. The person has good control of oneself, and his or her behavior will be good and proper. When seeing others well and happy, there will be mudita. One will not feel envy or jealousy. In this way, having mudita, one removes the envy and jealousy towards others. So based on metta, these good mental states also arise. And if there are metta in most of the people, the world will be very pleasant. And this will be all for today.